of war, its origin, what it's done, what it's doing now. I'm Tim Devereux, MAW Chair. I can't tell this story without mentioning the late, great, inspirational peace activist Bruce Kent, who was highly instrumental in setting MAW up in 2001 and sustaining it thereafter. MAW is part of an ongoing worldwide uprising challenging the inevitability of war, guided by the preamble of the Charter of the United Nations, signed in 1945, a vision of a world in which conflicts are resolved without resort to violence, to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which to this day continues to bring untold suffering to humankind, as well as deepening the climate crisis. Over the years, we've produced a series of postcards, pamphlets, music CDs, 2 DVDs, War No More, and Conflict and Climate Change. A concern has been to give the British remembrance tradition a different slant by focusing on the abolition of war. So every November we have a remembrance lecture, and our distinguished speakers have included Shirley Williams, Caroline Lucas, Michael Morpurgo, Martin Bell, Helena Kennedy, Merid Corrigan-Maguire, and our current president, Professor Paul Rogers. Our campaigning priorities include climate change and military emissions, to push for the inclusion of military-related emissions in the CEE bill and in COP28. The international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons. MAW is an active ICAN partner. The United Nations, raising awareness of the work of the United Nations in the public, in schools, and among MPs. Rethinking security, to promote a new definition of security not based on military expenditure. The Global Campaign on Military Spending UK, aiming to cut military spending to fund human need. As we look around the world, we see the climate crisis at work. East Africa on the brink of famine, as droughts and floods linked to climate change are destroying crops, livestock and livelihoods. The Antarctic ice sheet melting at an average rate of about 150 billion tonnes per year, and Greenland itself losing about 270 billion tonnes per year, adding to sea level rise. But wars still consume lives and resources. As many as 354,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers have been killed or injured in the Ukrainian war. Military might doesn't make us safe. True security is about human and planetary well-being. I'd like to introduce the first of our speakers, Diana Francis. She's an activist in movements for peace, economic justice and human rights. She's a MAW Vice President. She's past President of the International Fellowship of Reconciliation, and she's the author of 4 books about peace and countless articles. Diana, over to you.
Just about every amazing thing that needed to be said has been said by now, so now you can hear it all again from me. I want to start by saying that standing in front of something called the Ministry of Defence makes me absolutely furious. It isn't a Ministry of Defence, it's a Ministry of War.
Absolutely.
And a Ministry of Danger. And it does not make us more secure. Yes, security policy. What's that? It's military policy. And it does not make us safe. As Lindsay German's already pointed out, the money that's been spent on the military could pay for all the things that need to be paid for here at the moment, desperately needed things. And they've had 2 multi-billion rises in the defence budget in one parliament so far. They could get another one in, I expect, before they have to go. So it's a disaster. And I really feel a great need to share with you the well-tried quote from President Eisenhower. Every gun that is made, every warship launched, signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger, those who are cold and are not clothed. And if we think there's suffering in this country and poverty here, think of the rest of the world, where we cut international aid and no mention anymore of even putting it back up again. So it's all a disgrace and a disaster. And beyond that, there's the damage that this war machine, the military-industrial complex, as Eisenhower put it, is doing to everything. And that's energy going into that, energy of every sort, polluting energy, energy of people, energy of brain power, so desperately needed for the greening of the world, is being put into destroying the world. It's really unbearable to think about. And when I think about the images I've seen in recent years on TV of war in action, what all this stuff's heading for, you think of the images of Yemen. Please God, there's going to be a real ceasefire there, but for years ignored. The MOD still sending weapons there. And you see the land destroyed, the people dying, starving. And this is defence, this is security. It bloody well isn't.
No, it bloody well isn't.
And in the middle of all that, we now have the Ukraine war, where terrible suffering is going on of human beings, really terrible. But negotiations are not to be had. No, we mustn't negotiate. We must just keep sending more weapons, more weapons, more weapons. And who's making money out of that? And who's being saved by that? The saving isn't happening, but the money is being raked in by the great war machine. And the devastation of the land, the devastation of the buildings. If you think of the climate impact of those wars, it's absolutely unbelievable. The ecosystem must be being bashed to bits, and the war, the pumping out of the weapons all the time, more manufacture, more sending them off in planes, more bashing things to bits with them. This is all for the good. It's not. It's a disaster. And we have to say something has to change. It must change. It seems to me that the great deep problem that humanity has is that we have this particular model of power. Power is doing other countries down, other people down, other companies down. You have to compete, you have to win, you have to control. It's the philosophy of domination. If you're not dominant, you're nobody. Domination will destroy us all. Cooperation just could save us. Cooperation is the biggest power that humanity has. We could pull together as one world. We could revive diplomacy. We could put away the weapons. We could convert our arms industry. It is possible if there were the will. I'm afraid to mention the word, but, well, 2 words, toxic masculinity. the idea that, and women can take it over as well, the idea that to be somebody you have to be on top, you have to be the dominant one. And I think about geopolitics at the moment and how ridiculous it is that they're busy shuffling and elbowing and saying who's in and who's out and who should be able to do things and who shouldn't. NATO can do what the hell it likes, apparently. But we have to stop it. And we have to learn to care, to love. And I think today is a day of caring and loving, which is brilliant. It's inspiring. But we want a politics of care and love. What's a soppy word, but it's a word we need. We really need it. The geneticist Edward O. Wilson, strange name, who died recently, he wrote a book which was mostly about ants and rather confusing. I started skipping the ants chapters, and at the end he has this marvellous chapter about human beings as extraordinarily, uniquely sociable, able to do things together, as compared with ants, who are the other wonderful species. So let's hope we could be even better than the ants, but that's competitive. So let's just be super cooperative. And what he says is that for all the mess we've made of things, if we could just wake up and love each other and cooperate together, we really could make, in his words, a heaven on earth. But we haven't got much time, so let's go for it. Thank you.